Right, here we go. Okay. Image processing by me, Elliot Ortiz, Decarius, and Joseph Book. All right. Just a quick rundown of what exactly image processing is. It's just taking a photo. From that photo, we're doing some analyzation. And from that analyzation specifically, we're going to apply our photo through a program that scans what is a circle. And from that circle, we're going to find its radius. And our program is going to identify what's non-circular and circular. All right, you're going to be seeing this function a lot. I'm just going to give a quick rundown of the functions that are going to be in the program. Then Decarius is going to go specifically how the program looks and how the image looks after these specific functions. And then at the end, we'll reflect what exactly our program created. Okay, you're going to see this function a lot. I'm reading. It's just reading the photo really. It's just going to bring it up, show you the image. Right. And then a big part of our function is like turning into grayscale. It's this is done through I'm2Gray. There's another one that we also use in our program. And in order to do this, we do this to simplify the program. We found that by using this function, it's much easier to apply the functions that we had learned. Okay, our next function in our program is going to be BW area be open. Basically, it's going to take the photo BE and it's going to say that within an object of 2000 pixels, it's going to remove anything with 2000 pixels less. And that way it's going to basically put in the foreground objects that we supposedly want and the objects that we don't want in the background. Okay. And after that function, we actually used strel, which is it's a function that morphological structured element that used in our program to fill any gaps. And then like in this photo, this is what basically created, targeted one in the center and then looked up around on the numbers around. These numbers represent specifically what it was like, sorry, dark or bright. But basically using that strel function, it didn't fill our need. And so from there to fill in any gaps in our photos after using a function, we just went straight to just using unfill function. Okay. Next is the BW boundaries, and this is basically just defining the outer boundaries of an object. The no holes is a part of the function that we specify whether or not, say, we have a donut, and do we want to find the radius of that? We also want to like analyze the circle inside of the circle, but we said no holes, so therefore it's just like get ignore the inside part. All right. Our next part of the function is going to be a for loop. This for loop is basically going to look for those boundaries and within those objects that our program picked up. And then from those boundaries, it's going to estimate exactly what the area. And so this function, the region props, is a function that measures the properties of each labeled object in the image with a centroid part. That means the X and Y coordinates, which are going to be stored in a column matrix. After this function where we set the boundaries of our objects, basically, you know, we know from in this image, it's right here, for example, and we are going to set a threshold. So this constant for this next loop, which it's going to take that boundary and it's going to go through a program that basically finds the perimeters. And from this perimeter, we put in another calculation to find the area. And from that area, we're going to set it equal to metric. And then after that, we're going to do an F statement. And that F statement is going to compare whether that metric number is higher or lower than our set threshold. And if it's higher, that means it's a circle. And if it's lower, then not a circle. And basically the rest of the code is just to colorize the image and to really help the eye visualize what exactly are you seeing. And Decarius will specifically talk about how it looks like. Okay.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Vicarious, and I'll be given a quick rundown of our code and a small demonstration. Okay, so to start, you actually need images to process, believe it or not. So how we did it is we just took, pic took the pictures on our cell phone and emailed it to ourselves. And then you want to download the images and drag and drop them from the folder into this little workspace here. And then you need to input that name into this section here in the imread function. And when you run the code, you get your image. And then the next section will convert that image into black and white. And this foreground polarity bright here lets the system know that the foreground of the image is brighter than the background. And there's also dark, you would replace with bright, and you'd use that when the foreground of the image is darker than the background. And then that looks like this. The next section will remove the noise of the photo. And this value here is the number of pixels it will remove. Right now it's at 20,000. So everything under 20,000 pixels will be removed. And that looks like this. Now, if you had, let's say, 6,000, that didn't really change a whole lot. So let's go to 500. Okay, I'm not getting the result I'm looking for here, but I can show you an example of what it's kind of supposed to look like. Okay, so this is what happens when your that value is not big enough. So there's a lot of noise here, and the higher the value, the more noise it'll get rid of. And then the next section here will fill in any holes in your image inside the objects. So there was a gap here, and the code filled that in for us. Yeah, there it is. And there's all the noise you saw disappear. This section here will find and draw the boundaries of the objects. And then uh, this one will estimate the area. And we have our threshold here. And that's used down here, where if the metric is larger than the threshold, there will be a black circle placed on the object. So if we set our threshold to, let's do 0.7, when we run our code, oh, something didn't work. Index exceeds the number of array elements. Okay, well, let's not do that. Okay, so if that worked, you would have seen a black circle on any objects uh, with a circular percentage higher than 70. Okay, and if we run all the code, okay, so there's supposed to be little yellow numbers beside these objects that are not showing up currently. So this is what it should look like. You can see this coin here has a 89 circular percentage, 87 on this one. The boundary didn't really catch this well. You can see it's like not even a circle remotely. 84 on this, 11 on the fidget spinner, 23 on the little dog keychain here. And again, with the threshold, uh, you would have seen like a black circle in the middle of the objects, and that would let you know that those are the more circular ones according to the threshold set. And then this section down here is all about the area and like calculating the roundness. And then this will loop this section of code until all the objects have been calculated. And then we have our title, objects circular percentage here. And yeah, I think that's about it. Let me try to run this one more time. Okay, well, you get the idea. And the pictures in our presentation um actually worked. We didn't really use this threshold to mark the black circle for the images we captured, so that you just see the little yellow numbers. But yeah, that's about it. That's our code. And if you want to have the code for yourself to like play around with, you could reach out to me at my email here, n015178825@unf.edu.
In this video, I will explain the results showed when running the code. In this first slide, we ran the code through an image that only contains circular objects. The program turned background pixels into black, and any objects in the picture got turned into white, as you can see over here on the right. The program is able to sense the objects and calculate the roundness of each object, which is these numbers. The number displayed next to each object is that object's roundness. Because there are many variables affecting the image, such as lighting, photo resolution, and even just getting a flat surface for the objects to have a flat image will affect the roundness that the program can measure. As you can see by some of these circles, some of the pixels are missing. We really couldn't figure out how to get a perfect picture. We tried taking pictures in different locations and getting the room as dark as we could, but we couldn't get a perfect picture in the end. But all in all, you can see that the program does work. It can find the objects and map out the shape of that object. And as you can see, some of the circles do have high roundness values. In this next slide, we attempted the same code, but with a mixture of circular and non-circular objects. Most of the circles have higher value, meaning that the program still works fairly well. As you can see, all the circles have high values, but this rectangle also has a high value. And that is because mathematically, squares and rectangles tend to have high roundness to them. So this is to be expected through this code. In the final slide, we ran the program again, but this time the photo includes 0 round objects. As you can see, it still works fairly well. It does still give the rectangle a pretty high value, but in terms of all the other shapes shown in the image, they all have relatively low roundness. So we believe for this code that it runs pretty well. That is all for our results, and thank you for watching.